birds sing in the heart of the tree. Will small country folk still live happy and free? Will the children be safe from their feet getting cold when we lose our heroes of old? In times of good fortune, the light that would shine is taken for granted like passage of time. But what will you do when the storm hits the shore and the heroes of old are no more? So go count your blessings before they are gone. The magic of life, it will still carry on. If you look to the past, this is what you will see. The faces of heroes to be. The song of the ages, let it be your guide. The words of the brave echo into your mind. Remember when chains lock your arms in a bind, what the heroes of old left behind. Lift up your hearts, ye that have little faith, for those who stand tall will be known to be great. Destiny calls both the weak and the strong to make right what was found to be wrong. Your spirit is free to take flight to the sky, the bravest of all that should be you and I. Face evil with might of a heart that is bold and become like the heroes of old. We shall be known as heroes of old. The heroes of old.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm Richard Quiner, this is the RPG Daily, and sitting next to me is Anthony Ray, aka Arsalan Alistair. I want to take a moment before we dive in. That little ditty was done by a viewer, Jack Grimble, who's in the chat. Thank you, Jack. He sent it to me on like Saturday or Sunday, and I just now had a chance to look at it, and I was like, this is pretty rad. So it felt really fitting to just throw that in here. Considering he wrote it after the second session, which just aired over Friday. So it was kind of cool. Now, Anthony, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me today.
Hello, hello, hello.
How have you been doing?
Been doing all right. You have put us in a bunch of conundrums.
We will try to keep it a little spoiler-free
Yeah.
from session 3. Which, don't worry, Zach had the same problem when we did it. It's something I just got to work out the kinks of how these after shows will work. Before we get into talking about the show, though, Anthony, I want to know a little more about you. Can you tell people what is it you do and how did you get into the game?
All right. So I'm Anthony. I've been playing D&D for 5 years now. I had just started DMing on my own starting about last year in May or March, I believe. March or May, one of the M months. And yeah, I on the side I do voice acting and I edit videos, and I just thought that doing D&D and other tabletop RPGs would really enhance, like, trying to create characters, think of character voices. Even though Arsalan doesn't really have a character voice, I couldn't really think of anything for him. And because I did do acting in like high school, it did give me that kind of acting itch that I missed.
Okay. That's pretty cool. So you came from acting, you got into film. We were talking a little bit before, you're doing film school kind of online now.
Mm-hmm.
And you ended up coming up with a really interesting character that I've found he's been a pleasure to have in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So Can you tell me a little more of Arsalan's backstory? More for the viewers than for my sake, but
Mhm.
tell us where he came from.
So Arsalan Alistair comes from a small city in the northern area of your world called Lettuce. Lettuce. Is that what it's called? I have it written down somewhere.
So do I.
Lettustrad.
Lettustrad,
Lettustrad.
yes.
Yes. And so he actually is a character that uh developed his magic later in his life. So he didn't really encounter magic until like he was about 20, 22 years old. And that is when he met up with his wizard mentor, uh Murako, who lives about like an hour or two away from the city off on the coast, kind of isolated from the hustle and bustle, and has more of a sanctuary. And that is where Alice Arsalan started to learn his magic. And with and in this world, with the Wizard School of Magics, uh, they have this sort of wizard competition between all of the different wizarding schools or different wizard rivals and stuff like that. So they like a wizard mentor will choose one of their students to be fated to duel another wizard. They don't know anything about the enemy wizard. They don't know when it's going to happen. Uh, and all Arsalan knows is that there has to be a winner,
Hmm.
no matter what the wizard challenge is. It could be a duel, it could be some kind of magic display, it could be basically anything. But Arsalan, due to his nature, is not really doesn't really want to go towards that. He's just more interested in the history of magic, the freedom of magic, the just everything about magic intrigues him. So he really wants to go out into the world. When he does go out into the world when he turns 35, it took him about 13 years to train in this to like sense the magic with him and start actually cultivating it.
Right.
Uh, and then being able to go out into the world and discovering more about magic.
Yeah, that took him a while
Yeah.
thinking about it. Like, we were in the game. We have like the halflings. Like they seem really young. Like Tandy is 35 or 36, around the same age as Arsalan, but he's
Yeah.
much more juvenile in attitude. I always
Yeah.
pictured Arsalan younger. To be honest, I thought you were like in your 20s. But
No, no, he's in his 30s. Because I always because the thing with level 1 campaigns is that like you have to kind of start them from the beginning. You can't have them be able to do all these feats
yeah.
in the beginning. So I kind of wanted to have that kind of feel for Arslan, that he hasn't started his journey, but I also wanted to not, because I usually play a lot of younger characters, like usually put them at around my age.
Hmm.
Uh, but I wanted to try something different, that he's like a little bit older. He's seen some stuff around his city, and he's mature, because he's just a human.
Hmm.
So he is like older in human, but compared to like Ironbark, Zavis, and Riken, he's still technically young
Hmm.
because they just live longer than him. But Arslan doesn't really have that much life to live.
Yeah. You're the
So
human in the party. We have
yeah,
a half elf, Warforged, and a Asimar, which creates an interesting party to be like those kind of characters, and then you're like the human. And I've said on stream before, humans are not my favorite.
Mm.
As a player, I'm like I don't like playing humans, but I think it was an interesting choice, and especially because you made this connection with Ironbark in the session 0, which I want to mention a couple things that I really enjoyed from you in the session 0.
Mm.
Um, Asking about the connection you had with different other characters, it was interesting to me that you chose to go the magic route with Zavis, even though he's a bard, and it's like, it kind of just comes naturally to him through the music, but you chose to have Arsalan have that connection with Zavis through his magic use. Um, but we threw you for a little spin with Ironbark, because I remember early on, session 0, Arsalan was the one who woke Ironbark up and got him back into the real world. Um, and I don't think you realized that we had changed it, that Ironbark was actually not from the past.
Yeah, that was very much surprised. I was I I was kind of I was reminded of uh another session that I was in with my friends, that we also have a Warforged that came from the future, but he came from the future through a more ridiculous way than rather with Ironbark. He came from the future after he battled in a lot of wars, and then he was kind of battle damage and kind of was trying to find a resting place for himself, and then ended up in a magical forest that ex- extended space and time.
Yeah, it's still kind of a crazy way to do it, but I thought it was interesting or I thought it was really well done how we threw that loop in there, and you, though we had talked about it, and you were kind of, I believe, under the impression that he would come from the past, and you knew what a Warforged was at the time, and this kind
Mhm.
of thing, and then you just went with it. You just yes-anded. We're like, what? You're from the future, flying ships? What? Just kind of like, but you played into it really well, and so I had to let you know I appreciate you being flexible and going along with that, because I think that just made for a really interesting moment getting there. The oh,
No, I was gonna
you're
say
gonna
it's like,
say
yeah,
something.
because I mean, I was reminded of this recently, but it's like tabletop RPGs, whether it be D&D or Powers of the Apocalypse or any other system, it's a storytelling game. So it's not really fun when you go no but,
Yeah.
and it's more fun and more freeing, uh and it really shapes a character when you yes and a lot more. And I mean, that's also something that I've learned from just doing acting in high school, and like playing other RPGs for so long. And it's just like, yeah, you just gotta go with the flow. And it's like, how would your character react to that? It's like, I feel like I wanted to, when you gave that information, I wanted to touch onto more of Arsalan's intrigue into magic, and like, now that he knows that Ironbark is from the future, he's just like, how is this magically making sense? I know magic is not totally supposed to make sense, but I want to know how this is possible. If it's not feasibly possible to understand, that's even greater, but I want to know.
Okay, that'll be an interesting thing. That could be something that could come up. Like
Mhm.
we never know what can come up. I think I have my next question. I have actually. I think everyone wants to know, where did Barry come from? Because Barry is
Okay.
kind of like the de facto. He's the mascot. He's had some great roles.
Barry is my better half. um no, so honestly, Barry wasn't even originally part of my story. It's more of, I wanted to try out a new um I wanted to try out a new class because I've never played a wizard before.
Oh, Okay.
and I've played a lot of different classes, but the ones that have eluded me are wizard, sorcerer, druid. A lot of the magic casters, because I'm more of a physical player.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I wanted to play a wizard, and I already had thought up the name. I had thought up of like kind of the story I wanted to go with, and then I was like, you know what? I want to create my character in Hero Forge. So I started making the character in Hero Forge, and I was just going through the customizations, and like I was like, oh, it would be pretty cool if Arsalan had like a familiar. And I was like, all right, what's the normal familiars? It's like, yeah, owl, cool. We can have a rat or a squirrel. I was originally gonna give him a squirrel. I was originally gonna give him a
Okay.
squirrel, and then I saw that on the base options in Hero Forge that you can have a penguin on your base options. I was like, I have to go with Penguin. I have to go with Penguin. This is the only way. I can't. I have now seen this Penguin. It's now mine. It's now Arsalan now has the Penguin. That's it. That's the story behind Barry. I saw Penguin. I want Penguin. Penguin is now Barry.
That that makes perfect sense. So, but then that also like is the whole idea behind a penguin then just came from a whim
hmm
where you were just like do 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 on Hero Forge like, "Oh, penguin. I think that'll be the familiar."
Yeah,
And
exactly.
now we have Barry who is this very has turned into a very prominent figure in the party.
He is he is the savior. He had more health than me at one point because I'm just a squishy wizard. But now I have more health than Barry. Unless Barry levels up, then that's a problem.
Which might happen. You never
Oh,
know. You
oh
never know
boy,
in this
Barry!
story. Uh,
You heard it here first, folks. Barry's gonna get some battle armor. It's called plot armor.
plot armor. Oh,
Yeah,
he already has that.
his
He already
plot
has
armor.
plot armor.
He's never gonna
None of you
feel.
guys do. You guys are all up for grabs, but Barry I can't
Yeah,
touch. That's just how it works.
Barry's untouchable.
Um, I've really enjoyed the Barry dynamic and seeing how everyone kind of took to it. And you've made really good use of him. I hadn't had people play with a familiar before, so for me it was a real quick learning curve of like the help action.
hmm
Never had anyone do that before. I had no idea how it worked. Um, so then I was
Yeah,
like, I'm learning something new.
yeah. With familiars, it's it's a very tentative thing that you can do with it, because like you can either have them, because it's different than an animal companion that druids and rangers have
Hmm.
that they could get, because when druids and rangers can get them, they could attack
Yeah.
essentially. But with familiars, they don't necessarily attack. They're just kind of with you to kind of help you with your magic. And like I've listened to like a bunch of podcasts that there's like some characters that would uh have familiars, and from from the more fun and uh like kind of common use for familiars tend to be, they're kind of like emotional support animals more often than not. So
Which you've
I
done with Barry also.
yes, Barry is very supportive.
Yes, he is. He supports everybody.
Yeah.
But it's been really fun seeing that play out in the game. Um, Without going into spoilers, looking back on the last session, or even before that, we can go all the way back to session one. Do you have any moments that really stood out as interesting character moments for Arsalan?
Uh, Interesting character moments for Arsalan.
Or things that you did that you were like, yeah, that was cool. I did that.
Um, I think one of the things that I liked, that I wanted to make sure that I did as Arsalan, is that even though he isn't like very, uh, I mean, as a parent from session one, he's not very good at magic. Apparently, he just can't hit anything.
He's not. He's
But
terrible.
he want like I did want him to be more strategical. And the moment that I was like, yes, I want to have Arsalan do was to tell the townsfolk to build up defenses.
Mm-hmm.
That was one thing that I was like, I need Arsalan to do this. That I was either going to help them do this or that I'm going to tell them to do this. That is like because I kind of wanted to fit in toward in the more of the war mage kind of mindset is like war mages, they kind of get into the heat of battle, but they're also tactical. They're just more frontline mages than backline mages.
Yeah. Which, yeah, that I remember that moment. That was something. I honestly didn't expect that from you. I thought that would be like a Zavis would speak up because he's the talker, he's kind of the face. But then
Yeah.
when Arsalan said it, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. He's a war mage. He's gonna know this stuff. And you were very, uh, what's the word? Direct in your orders. You were like, you need pits. You do put them out here. And then so for a DM, that was fantastic. So that was definitely a very badass Arsalan moment.
Yeah.
Um,
I think another moment with Arsalan is just I love the interaction that Arsalan has with Ironbark is because it's not the fact that I don't think Arsalan is trying to teach Ironbark anything. He's
mhm.
just more trying to be a friend to Ironbark. It's just like because Ironbark is more he can't really tell a lie. He's just very he's very he's very straightforward and just like says whatever's on his mind. So like that one point that I'm like that he comes up with that theory that they're kind of like sacrificing the halflings.
Yeah.
Like the halflings are sacrificing their own. And like when we started getting into conversation with the chiefs, I was just like, just I had a feeling that he might mention it, so I was like, you know what? Let me just have him like not do lead in with that. Let's figure out what's going on first, and
Yeah.
then and then I'll let him decide whether or not he wants to bring that up. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's
That was a fun moment too. Um, and you also are now also dealing with the potential of your wizard face-off kind of happening with the introduction of the very brief introduction of the elf wizard Volin that
yeah.
you picked up on. What are your thoughts on that character, and how do you see a wizard duel playing out in that kind of in this sense?
So, um, so right when you're like right when you said it's like, oh, there's a wizard here, and she is not a hobgoblin. I was like, oh, okay. Here we go. I guess Arsalan's meeting this sooner than he thought.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
you put that in your backstory. I had to
mhm,
include it, even
mhm.
in a like level 1 through 5 adventure. It had to be there.
Yeah. Uh, and it was just kind of more for Arsalan is like, all right, Arsalan, you got to get your stuff together because this battle is coming soon. Uh, so okay, so a little backstory on where I got this wizard duel idea from. I read a book. uh, pff, I can't speak. I read a book called The Night Circus, and they had this whole idea of that there's these two old magic wizards that they have been doing this for years and years and years, that they're trying to prove which style of teaching is better between them. So they keep every so often they pick two random people like basically off the street that they sense this magic power from, and they train them, they brand them
Mm-hmm.
be fated to be bonded together for all eternity until they face each other, and they have to do whatever magical challenge. They won't tell them the challenge, they won't tell them anything. All they're doing is teaching them everything that they think they would need to know. So I was like, that's a cool idea. Take that. And the way that they did it in a book is more like they did displays of magic in more of like a performative kind of way. So I didn't know how I wanted it to go. I know usually in like mostly in D&D settings it's going to be more battle like.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'm fine with it being a battle. I'm fine with it being a magical challenge of the arts if possible. I'm fine with it going either way. I was just kind of leaving that up to you
Mm-hmm.
just to see where you're going, and more of the idea of like Arsalan also doesn't know how this wizard challenge is going to go,
Right.
cuz that kind of gets decided once you meet.
Mm.
So so me like so I can go whichever way is needed to go to in order to do this wizard duel.
Okay, so you're keeping a very open mind about it. All right, I can work
Yeah,
with that. I can work with
yeah.
that. She's already shown, like in a brief moment, like she did dispel the fog cloud that Riken cast on the group. Riken in his moment of passion and anger
And
tried to
panic.
fog cloud everybody. Uh,
Mhm.
but I felt like that was a little display that she had, partially to show you what's going on a little bit. But that's interesting. I'm gonna, it's interesting you mentioned the combat thing. I don't know how this one will play out yet either. We still have a couple days before the finale is recorded,
Mhm.
so we'll see. We'll see. Um, let's see. Let's talk some gossip.
Oh
I want
boy.
to know. I want to know what Arsalan thinks of his companions.
Okay.
I asked Riken this question or Zach this
Mhm.
question, and he decided to call Arsalan out for rolling poorly. So, so I'm giving your chance to rebuttal if that's what you want to do.
All right. So I mean, like we mentioned before, Zavis is very much the face, very much the diplomat. Uh and Arsalan kind of respects that. That is like, okay, not everything needs to be resulting into violence and everything. Uh and I Arsalan does admire that kind of side of him, and he does sometimes use magic in order to complete those goals, whether it be charming them or just using vicious mockery.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and uh, and it's giving it seeing Zavis use his magic gives Arslan ideas of how to use his magic,
Ah.
just different ways of using his magic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's he sees Zavis more as a learning experience. That is like, oh, I can learn some bard tricks essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Like, see how a bard does his magic. Let's see how different it is from my magic, which I get from a book, essentially.
Interesting.
I mean, Ironbark and Arsalan are best buds. They're buddies. It's like it's it's like a Groot and Rocket Raccoon kind of situation if Rocket Raccoon was nice.
Right. Yeah, and Groot was a lot more talkative.
Yeah, and Groot said more than I am
Yeah.
Groot. Or that just everyone understood what Groot was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's pretty funny.
with Riken, uh, Arslan is just thinks he's a very very simple man. He's a very simple man with simple pleasures.
All
uh,
right.
and and I mean, we had some jabs within the session too, that he'll call out on me on missing, and I'll just be like, just whenever he calls the halflings little boys and little children, I have to correct him. And there was that one moment when Crispin was looking into our minds of like, ooh, I don't know if you want to go into his
Oh
mind.
yeah.
It's a little empty in there. You don't know what you're gonna find in there.
In the chat, Zach said that makes him Drax. I guess if you're Rocket, Ironbark's Groot, then Zach would be Drax, and I guess
Yeah,
does that
and I
make
guess
Zavis Star Lord or
yeah, I think Zavis is Star Lord.
I don't
I
know.
think that makes Zavis.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think Zavis is a combination of Star Lord and Gamora.
Oh, okay.
He Zavis Zavis has the Star Lord charm with with the possible anger of Gamora.
So he's what would have happened had Gamora not died in the end of Infinity War,
Yes.
and they had to restart their relationship again.
I see Riken more as if Star Lord was Thor. If Star Lord was Thor, that's Riken.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good comparison. We're gonna answer a question because we had a question in the chat a long time ago, and I don't want to skip it. I want to hear you. What's your best advice for new players?
My best advice for new players. Um, when it comes to honestly, when it comes to building a character, build it off something you know. Build it off something you know. Like you if you have a favorite character, try to see what class that character would fit in. I know is it Tulok or Turlock the barbarian on YouTube? He does a lot of character if what if this character was in D&D. He
Oh,
does a lot of like anime and cartoons and superheroes and stuff like that, and he translates them from their shows into a D&D setting. And
mm-hmm.
and he goes over like what's good about the build, what's bad about the build, and it's all subjective towards that. He's like, you could totally just go whatever. This is just my suggestions of what you could do. Another thing I would tell new players is that don't be too intimidated by the rules. It's a very intimidating book looking at it at the first time, but know that that book is just more flexible guidelines than rules. Because I know when I first started D&D, I was like, when it came to like building like personality traits and bonds and stuff like that, I was really literal to the book. Is like, oh, this is my background. All right, I have to choose one of these personality traits. I have to
Mm-hmm.
choose one of these. And later on, when I continue playing, I just realized is like, don't limit yourself to the whatever the book says. Just like this is just a guideline. This is just to help you if you have no idea what you want to do, or just see it as more as a jumping off point when you're creating your backstory of your character.
That's a really good point. I used to do that myself too. I was like, "This are my bonds," and I had to play. I felt like I had to play like that. Now I use them when I'm lazy and don't want to come up with my own.
Yeah.
I just like I'll pick one out of the book because I'm like I don't want to figure this out on my own.
Yeah. I honestly look at backgrounds as like, all right, which extra skills do I want? Which background makes sense for my character and which extra skills do I want?
Yeah, that's that's true. That's important, I think. Also, if you are in that sense, when you're making a character, do you tend to go for a more optimized build, or do you just try to have fun with it and see what happens?
Uh, hmm. I think when I first started building characters, I did optimize them a little bit more. That is like, oh, this is a strength-based character. Gotta build that strength.
Mm-hmm.
Let me build that health. Let me do all that. But now I kind of have more fun with my character building. That it's like take I have a recent character that I just did for one shot. I rolled all of his stats. I ended up what I like to do is that I like to roll like full sets of stats twice,
Okay.
and then some. I'll be like, all right, say like all the rolls are kind of like, they're all like +1, +0. That's no fun. If
Yeah.
I have like variation in it, like I'll have like a +3 here, but I also have a -1 or 2 over here. And I would be like, all right, cool. That's a good mesh of balanced characters. So like that one character that I have for one shot, his dexterity and charisma, no, his dexterity and his intelligence are both in the negatives, while his wisdom is +4.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
It's a
very
trade-off.
I love having very different uh different kind of role modifiers in in my characters, because that just makes my character more interesting and fun, and makes the storytelling more fun, and makes the dice rolls more fun. Is like, because sometimes I'll be like, oh man, yeah, I'll get like into it and be like, yeah, I'm gonna roll investigation. Ooh, I forgot, I have a -2 to investigation. Oh no, this could go horribly, horribly wrong.
Yeah. Okay. I think that I agree with that. That's a pretty good way to look at things. Is just make the character something interesting and fun. The stats will work themselves out. Plus, if we actually look at the math, and I don't have the math like in front of me, but there was
Mhm.
another YouTube guy on YouTube who did the math of like character stats, and he showed that by level 5, even if you have a suboptimal, race versus to class, matchup, it's going to work itself out anyways, and you're not going to be sitting there hurting too much. For
Yeah.
example, if you pick a dwarf as a rogue or something like that, where it's like
Mhm.
normally they're not dex based. By level 5, that extra racial bonuses don't even matter that much.
Yeah.
So,
And also, when you also have your party members to kind of cover your asses there. So
definitely.
unless you are a party of, which I do have one of these, that a party of everyone that is just their highest stat is all of them is charisma. So that's a fun situation.
They're all trying to be the face. They're all trying to talk, right? Or no?
It's three bards and a paladin, and
Oh,
it's
jeez.
very chaotic.
I can see that. I can see that happening. But that could be fun, though. That could be fun.
Yeah.
Then you put them against something that charisma doesn't matter to them, and then see how they
Mhm.
watch them squirm a little bit.
Yeah,
Uh,
it gets very scary when we get into battles.
Because then the bards are just taunting, just vicious mockery everywhere.
They're just like, we don't know, and everyone has bardic inspiration. What do I do with all these bardic inspirations? We have no one to give it to.
That's yeah. That's I. You never think of that as a problem,
Yeah.
but yeah, when you have that many bards. Um, so here's a fun question. This is
Mhm.
dumb but fun at the same time. Jack Grimble is asking, "What's the name of the party?" But wrong answers only. And it's
Uh,
it's not Barry's Boys or the Knights of Barry.
I Karen's Karen's misfortune.
That might be more accurate, depending how the adventure's going.
Depending on how this adventure goes, it's gonna be Karen's misfortune.
It could be a real misfortune. That's pretty good. So last question I'll ask you here.
Hmm.
What do you see for the future of Arsalan? If assuming he survives this adventure, where
Hmm.
do you see Arsalan doing after that?
Well, I think Arslan's gonna he's gonna continue traveling. He's gonna continue, whether it be with this adventuring party or not. He's gonna want to keep on traveling. He's probably gonna want to help out Ironbark to figure out where, if it's possible to get him to the Back to the Future, or kind of more is like, how much has the future, how much has the future changed? What kind of timeline are we working on here now? That we like, is the things that happened with Ironbark going to happen, or have we changed that forever now? So
Yeah.
I
That
I think it's gonna become a buddy cop movie. It's gonna be Arsalan and Ironbark and Barry together riding riding off into the sunset.
and Riken and Zavis are not invited to that.
They can come if they want to.
Who knows if they'll want to be involved in that motley crew of people. I did have one other question, actually, but I know this is a really tough one. Or at least it was really difficult for Zach to do. But I want to know, can you give like a one sentence or one word that can give people an idea of what they're getting into with session 3 coming up this Friday?
Ooh, okay, so I kind of prepared myself for this one.
Okay,
So
cool.
I'm
Just
a little bit.
little teaser without giving too much.
Okay. Plans on plans on plans. We planned so much. I think a lot of that session is just us sitting down and just planning stuff.
I think that's an accurate description of it. It is going to be a little longer. I think with our technical difficulties, we were well over 4 hours of a
Oh yeah,
session.
yeah. We had a bunch of technical.
So it was, but
yeah,
still it was fun. Hopefully the viewers like it. Hopefully Jack likes it enough to write another song.
Oh man. So yeah,
just
that was one thing. So when you had mentioned the song the first time, and then that he was making the song and that it was to this tune, I'm telling you, bro, if you make it to like a certain tune and you just do the instrumental, I will sing as Barry singing the song. And Barry is now canonically, for whatever character I build next, it's going to be Barry. He's going to be an awoken penguin. He's going to be a bard, and he's just gonna have adventures. It's canon now. I have to do it. That's my next character.
I think that's an appropriate thing. Jack had actually offered to record instrumentals, so we'll probably have to work that out. Because you had mentioned singing. I know Zach had mentioned he's down to sing as well. We'll try to make something work. The funny thing is I had sent you guys the lyrics because he did write a song for the first session.
Yeah.
And I sent you guys the lyrics, and then the one I played today he wrote after the second session. Mm-hmm. So he's like doing this timeline. We're going to make something work, and I'm going to try. This is what my goal is for the fourth session's airing. We'll have a song at the end, like a little theme song set up. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, that would be super cool.
So I'll reach out to Jack. We'll coordinate our the team's efforts, and we'll see what we can work out in the next couple weeks.
Heck yeah.
Anthony, thank you for coming on the show and talking about it. Any last thoughts that you want to leave with the viewers? Words of wisdom.
Just the dice tell the story sometimes. The dice tell the story sometimes.
That's very true.
Sometimes the story is out of your control, and the dice will tell the story for you.
All right, viewers out there, thank you guys so for watching. Tune in Friday for the third session. It's a doozy. It's gonna be fun. And then next Friday we have session 4, the finale. Big things are happening. So
looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be good. So thank you guys for watching, and have a good one.
See ya.